Did the Pacers bench just hit a breaking point? Do they need to make a change? And if so, what is it? Plus, how can the Pacers survive without Pascal Siakam? And it's Standings Watch Week 2, all today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, jam-packed episode. Lots of stuff to get to. One, it's a breaking point reached with the bench over the weekend. What changes could or should the Pacers make rotationally? Two, how can they survive Minnesota without Pascal Siakam? Do they even have a chance against the Red Hot Wolves? And three, it's Standings Watch Week 2. And I'm about to tell you why this is maybe the most critical week for the Pacers in their chase for seeding the rest of the season. It's a big one, despite the Pacers not playing any particularly important seeding games. Much to get to today. We start with something that I would like to get out of my head and into the open space, and that is the concept of Saturday's loss to the Bucks leading to change for the Pacers rotationally. Rick Carlisle mentioned after the game, maybe I'm subbing in too many guys or something like that. I'll read his exact quote. Well, I figured this out. He said, maybe I'm subbing too many guys at once, right? And that made me perk up and go, oh, interesting. What would look different? What's the issue rotationally? I went through the bench numbers after that game on that podcast if you want to listen to that. But let me talk about why, first of all, that game feels like it could be a launching point for change. There's always a game where when a team is going to make a change, something comes to a head and something bad happens. My example to explain this to you would be the Pacers last season. They're heading into Christmas time, right? And things are going poorly, right? Great in-season tournament run. Things are exciting. They make the finals. They come out. They beat Detroit. Woohoo. Beating the Pistons. And then they stink. They lose 6 out of 7. Their only win coming against Charlotte. Before that Charlotte game, there were talks about a starting lineup change and what that could look like. And the team was talking about the numbers behind the issues they've been having. And at the time, the numbers said their starting lineup was good, but recently it hadn't been playing well. They beat the Hornets. They stall for a little bit and then lose the next two after that Charlotte win to Memphis and Orlando. And lo and behold, the tipping point comes, right? That is when they make their starting lineup change. After that Orlando game, in Orlando, they started Haliburton, Hield, Nembhard, Turner, Toppin. They go to Houston their next game. They start Haliburton, Nembhard, Nesmith, Turner, and Jalen Smith. So Jalen Smith comes in to that group, and Aaron Nesmith comes into that group. And obviously, Bruce Brown's presence eventually changed that again before he was ultimately traded for Siakam. But at the time, what Carlisle talked about was physicality and rebounding being important, right? There was a structural change he saw needed. The team's results of late made a change needed. When they changed their starting lineup last month, something I said at the time I wouldn't have done as the Pacers. Despite the team having generally good numbers with that starting group, and I still think those numbers were good and are good, of late for that lineup, the last month or so, not good. Change maybe you could have said needed. Again, I wouldn't have done that. Regardless, in that situation in late 2023, an 8-game stretch went so bad that they had a tipping point loss to the Magic, physicality of thing against Orlando, and they made a change. The bench has been bad for long enough for the Pacers right now, right this second, and we've seen precedent of them doing this. It would not shock me if how bad the bench was against the Bucks on Saturday led to changes rotationally for the Pacers. What I'm not saying by that is the players that specifically hit the floor for the Pacers will change. It is very possible they continue with the same 9 or 10 guys. However, the number of players is one route this could go. And when they overlap and how they overlap is more interesting to me necessarily than anything else. Because that's the part of the Carlisle quote that I read that stood out the most to me, that maybe too many guys on the floor at the same time. These numbers have been beat to death in the last couple of days. But to reiterate right now, the Pacers with 5 starters on the floor. They do that the 6th most of anyone in the league, right? They play their starters a lot. Their starters net rating is the 8th best in the league. Good. The Pacers, with 4 starters on the floor, at least 15th most often, falls down to average. And they have the 6th best net rating in the league in those instances. Turns out their starting 5 is pretty good and pretty connected. Then things get weird. With 3 or fewer starters, huge drop again. 26th in frequency, minus 2.2 net rating is 20th. 2 starters, they're 23rd in frequency, minus 8.9 net rating is 26th. And then 1 starter, they're 15th. They actually jump in rank of frequency, and their net rating is minus 3.6, which ranks 18th. They need to shift, if possible. It's not easy to do this. Some of those 2 starter lineups and almost all of those 1 starter lineups up 1 peg is what my suggestion would be. And just scrap the 0. The full bench groups just shouldn't happen. And I think they know that part, right? The Philly game they played on Friday was a unique scenario with the back-to-back before their most important game. I got it then. I think getting away from that, they understand that's easy. Play one of your stars at all times. Do that. But if you're 26th in three-starter frequency, just bump the 2-starter groups up a peg, right? Their net minus 2.2 net rating isn't good, but it's not terrible, right? You can survive that. And then, in turn, slide up some of those 1-starter groups up a peg. Now, what I'm saying involves playing starters more, potentially. And that is where this gets challenging, is something the Pacers are very cognizant of that I'm working on a story for, is the minutes their players are playing, right? Pascal Siakam's agent complimented Rick Carlisle for the way he approaches minutes and how it helped keep Siakam healthy for the playoffs last year. The Pacers play very fast. Depth is required to play that way for long games, right? They have players specifically who are good in that style. I understand all that, but the bench has been so bad it's costing them wins, and it requires an adjustment. And to me, that is the lowest hanging fruit. Is they have to play more lineups with 3 or more starters on the floor than they are now, and you can really see that drop off in frequency. 26th in the league in how often they use lineups with 3 starters on the floor, and 23rd in 2 starter groups. So they play more often than most teams 1 starter groups and 4 starter groups, and really often they're starting 5, which is good. It's a good group. How exactly does that work? That's not just like flip a switch. We did it. They changed everything. But that is, I think, what they need to figure out. Like their worst groups with 3 starters or fewer typically don't have one of their star players. McConnell, Shepard, Walker, Haliburton, Turner being an exception to that. But usually you'll catch a theme here. Here are their worst lineups with 3 or fewer starters on the floor. Turner, Haliburton, Walker, Shepard, McConnell. Bryant, Nembhard, Toppin, Haliburton, Nesmith. Turner, Siakam, Walker, Shepard, McConnell. Siakam, Haliburton, Mathurin, Walker, Freeman. Turner, Toppin, Haliburton, Mathurin, Walker. Bryant, Toppin, Nesmith, Shepard, McConnell. That is the top 6. Top 7th is Turner, Siakam, Haliburton, Mathurin, Quentin Jackson. You have to get down to the 11th lineup before you say Andrew Nembhard's name twice. Here's a conundrum the Pacers have. Their bench groups, when they have 2 creators on the floor, so Nembhard, McConnell, or Nembhard, Haliburton, are good. They're better than the usual bench groups. And their star players' net ratings are also much better when Andrew Nembhard's on the floor. The Pacers' net rating swing for Nembhard this year, still crazy. Over 7 points per 100 possessions. He just fits with everyone. My solution to the Pacers' rotational challenges would be to try to more often have Nembhard with bench groups. That is very challenging to do because their star players are also better with him. So how does that work in practice? I don't know. Good question, listener. I should have really drawn out a rotation where this is possible, because that to me is what it is. They can't just play Nembhard 40, 48 minutes in a game, but I think there needs to be a way where Nembhard, McConnell is more often a thing with Siakam, for example, with second units, and then the other 3 players are bench players, because that is where I feel like the change can come. He is very infrequently in poor lineups that have 3 or fewer starters. And that makes sense. He's good. He can do a lot of things on or off the ball. Clearly, Clearly, we just saw this with Haliburton now. He is a bit overtasked at times as a lead ball handler, right? That's why I say 2 guard lineups are valuable here. The units with him and McConnell had really good net rating numbers in Atlanta, right? They made a huge comeback late in the first half, that first game. But if he is paired with another guard, he has a lot of punch. His defense has value, and he can help keep those bench groups afloat. That is what my idea would be as the Pacers. Instead of just one of the creators with Mathurin and Shepherd or whatever it is. So that would probably require playing Ben Shepherd less. I think that is how that would look in practice. But that would be what I would try to do first as the Pacers is shift some of those 2 starter minutes up to 3 starter minutes, making that third guy Andrew Nembhard, and then shifting some of those 1 starter minutes to 2 starter minutes. Is it possible for them to play 9 guys? Yeah, possible. I don't know who they'd cut out to make it happen, though. And I think they need to get Andrew Nembhard more minutes contextually, both with stars and with the bench. Way easier said than done. That's asking a lot of a good player. But that, to me, is how they can glue some bench units together and still not break their rotation completely. We'll see what they do in Minnesota, where their injury report says nothing I just said matters, and they might be playing their bench from the opening tip. What's going on there? And how will the Pacers survive their first game without Siakam? We'll get to that next year on the Locked On Pacers. Before we do that, though, got to talk about 2 great groups of people. First up, DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. A couple ways you can take advantage of something like that. After an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings or pizza or burgers from your favorite spots delivered straight to your door. Whether you're staying up watching highlights or just need a midnight snack, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Need a quick and easy lunch the next day? Well, with Dash Pass, you get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive offer. Plan to catch the next game, order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount. Get ready. More high-scoring action. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use that promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. We also have to talk about FanDuel. March Madness is here. No Hoosiers. Phew. And FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before right now. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who is cutting down the nets. Lots of people have their eyes on many underdogs. FanDuel makes it easy to back them with their spreads, with their point totals, and their game props with tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. One more time, that is on FanDuel.com. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Locked On Wolves, your second listen. The Pacers play Minnesota tonight. Minnesota's won 8 in a row. Bad time for the Pacers to be playing them for the first time this season, huh? That's crazy. The last time the Pacers played in Minnesota, it was 2023. Wild how time passes. It's going to be a tough one for the Pacers in general, just because Minnesota's good and playing good, and they beat the Jazz pretty handily on Sunday night. It's going to be even tougher because of the good old injury report. It's late in the day, so I will tell you the most recent release NBA injury report is the 1:30 a.m. injury report. As of me talking right now, when this comes out, there will be more up-to-date ones. Let me just read you some things here. Tyrese Haliburton, lower back soreness. He's questionable in Minnesota. Johnny Furphy, who missed the Bucks game, he's sick. He's questionable. Isaiah Jackson's obviously out. Aaron Nesmith has a left ankle injury. Left ankle injury management is his designation. He's questionable. Myles Turner has a left hip contusion. He is questionable. And Pascal Siakam, for personal reasons, is out in Minnesota. Ignoring all the rest of the players. Siakam's been good against the Wolves in the past. He's out. He's not missed a game for the Pacers. This will be his first one What can the Pacers do without him? Good question. We don't know. We've never seen this. He's played every game since they traded for him, including the playoffs. Quite the Iron Man stretch. If they don't have Nesmith and Haliburton, one, forget everything I just said in the first segment. Their bench is playing the whole game. They're probably going to get smoked. Two, this is going to be tough. It's just going to be a tough game. If they do have those guys, I'd imagine Toppin would start, although it would not surprise me if the Pacers go a different direction there. Regardless, Pascal Siakam on the floor this season for the Pacers. 117.55 offensive rating, 112.24 defensive for a plus 5.3 net rating. Yes, I'll do addition and subtraction for you on this podcast. That's very good. 5.3 net rating is very good. Pascal Siakam off the floor this season. Pacers offense, 114 offensive rating. That is 3.5 points worse. Their defensive rating, 121.4 with Siakam off. That is almost over 9 points worse for a net rating of minus 7.36, meaning Pascal Siakam's net rating swing for the Pacers is plus 12. Plus 12. That's insane. That is an immaculately large loss. Hard to believe. Not that hard to believe if you've watched the Pacers, but you see it written down. It's just shocking. He just carried them in the second quarter and the fourth quarter against the Bucks. He was very good. And he's been very good all season. That's why he was an all-star. They have not played without him in a game. So this is a new 30 minutes they will have to figure, 30 to 40 minutes they'll have to figure out. Let's do the thing again. Let's run through the worst lineups the Pacers have seen without Siakam this year. Minus 19, Turner, Haliburton, Walker, Shepard, McConnell. Minus 18, Bryant, Nembhard, Toppin, Haliburton, Nesmith. Turner, Toppin, Haliburton, Mathurin, Walker is next. Hey, that's a lot of bench players. They have to, I think, get clever in the front court. They cannot play Bryant, Toppin together in this game. They're going to have to play either Jarris Walker small ball groups or Toppin at the 5 in Minnesota, because they just miss so much without Siakam on both ends that they have to me, the answer is lean all in on one thing or the other. What I mean by that is either it's Toppin, Turner, and it's offense, or I guess it's Turner, Walker, or Turner, Nesmith, probably. Nesmith very rarely playing the 4 this year. And defense. Right? They cannot kind of try to cut this down the middle in a game like this because they won't have the horses to do it, right? Their best groups without Siakam this year are also very telling, right? Turner, Nembhard, Toppin, Haliburton, Nesmith, which would be my suggestion for the starting 5, is actually plus 37 in 42 minutes. Now, granted, they've made 61% of their 2s and 45% of their 3s. Those numbers will drop. That's a small sample, but they've been, and that lineup makes sense, good together. Plus 16, Turner, Nembhard, Toppin, Haliburton, Shepard. So Shepard in for Nesmith. Good offensive groups with 3 and D wings. Turns out look pretty good in these moments. An interesting one would be that is good is Bryant, Nembhard, Toppin, Nesmith, McConnell. That's actually a bench-ish heavy unit that has some balance of offense and defense. But regardless, they have never faced this situation without Siakam. And I think it's imperative to not try to replace Siakam by playing their typical rotation just with guys shifted up a spot. I think that is a big enough loss with net rating swings. And I think this is somewhat obvious, but when you see the numbers written down, that they have to literally adjust their focus in a game, right? They cannot try to get early seals with whoever the 4 is and have their 4-man be either on the dunker spot, causing pressure just by existing, or setting a bunch of screens or operating elbows in. Like they know that. No one on the Pacers can do that with any sort of consistency, but it's going to change everything about the way they play. And so remember how they played with Toppin starting last year, for example, right? That kind of up-tempo go. They could do that, but you have to lean in on offense. If you're going to do that, you need lots of ball handling and shooting, right? If they go the other way and try to slow things down and play a little more defensive, that's a game where Mathurin is typically very good. So then you can pair Mathurin with other offensive types that could allow those groups to succeed in slower pace settings. Minnesota's a very good defensive team. That strategy would be hard to do, but Mathurin can thrive in those games. He has at many times throughout the season, right? Is there a way to get that going with a front court that has Walker and Turner together, for example, right? That would be how I, if I'm the Pacers, would try to survive a Siakam absence, is a literal shift of away from balance. Sounds crazy to say, but A lot is possible because Siakam is so good, and they might have to literally change the structure of the way they play. And the lineups bear that out pretty well. And what they can't do to me is just try to hammer their starters in this one. If it's a close game late, yeah, go for it. But I'm not insinuating they're going to do this or that they should do this. It would not shock me, and it would not be without merit to me if they just punt. Not punt like give up, but 3rd and 4 nights, you have banged up players clearly from the injury report. I mean, if Neesmith and Turner and Haliburton are all guys that are on the fence in this one, and Siakam's not playing, given what is coming for them this week, which I'll get to after this coming break, wouldn't shock me for them to think about a day off for a stretch run situation. But they got it. I think they should go for it. I mean, if they can, right? This is such a close race, and schedules are a big story for the Pacers. Regardless, without Siakam, things are going to change dramatically. It's going to be up to the Pacers to find solutions. This is the most fascinating standings watch week I think that we will have the rest of the way. The last week was not so great for the Pacers, obviously, losing their most important game of the season, but a very, very, very interesting week for their chase for seeding in the East. Coming up, we'll talk about it to close out today's Locked On Pacers. Before we do that, let's talk about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That is where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When people start using Monarch, they realize just how much they're spending on things like food delivery. Now they budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Back here on Locked On Pacers, thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Make Locked On Hoosiers or Boilers your second listen. I don't know if Locked On Boilers is back yet. To hear about the NCAA tournament, 4 teams here locally. And if you're an NBA fan exclusively, Thunder beat the Bucks, much to the Pacers' excitement. Locked On Thunder for your second listen. Speaking of the Bucks, standings watch every Monday or sometime early in the week. We will do this the rest of the season. It's what the Pacers care about the final month. What's going on around them as they try to chase the 4th seed or whatever seed they want in the Eastern Conference playoff field. They currently sit in 5th, half a game behind the Bucks, but that's really a game and a half because dreadful week for the Pacers. They did not beat the Bucks both times they needed to secure that tiebreaker. They are now going to have to finish with an outright better record than Milwaukee to finish ahead of them in the standings. That dreadful bench game just killed them. On Saturday, you can hear more about that on yesterday's podcast. Regardless, last week, the teams the Pacers care about in their playoff chase, the Bucks, for example, went 2-3. They beat the Pacers. They beat the LeBron-less Lakers, but they lost to the Cavs. They lost to the Thunder. And, of course, Tyrese Haliburton's miracle shot meant they lost to the Pacers. So they actually went 2-3 in a week that the Pacers also only won 2 games. Pacers, of course, losing to the Bulls and the Bucks before beating the Sixers and the Bucks in the other one. The Pistons, weird week, 2-1, losing to the Wizards. And the Thunder before beating the Wizards. And then the Knicks, who got on this list just because of Jalen Brunson's injury, which it sounds like from reporting will not allow him to return to the floor until late March or early January, beat the Kings. Huge when they smoked them. And the Blazers, that was a big group of 2 wins for the Knicks. And then lost to the Warriors. So as things stand now, the Bucks are 38-29, half a game ahead of the Pacers, who are 37-29. The Pistons are 37-31, and the Knicks are 42-24. 5 games behind the Knicks are the Pacers, who also don't have that tiebreaker. That's looking exceedingly unlikely. But again, with Brunson out, I'm not ruling it out just yet, but I'll get to why in a second. That could be over in my own head as soon as the end of this week. On the back end of this thing, the Miami Heat have lost 7 straight games. They're 29-38. Their peak wins is 46. Can't do math. It's 44. The Pacers are only 7 wins away from that. Exceedingly likely the Pacers will be top 8. Very likely they'll be top 6. The Hawks have now lost 2 in a row. They have 36 losses. So the Pacers' magic number for a playoff spot is now 10. They have 16 games to go. The Hawks also have 16. Excuse me, the Hawks have 14 games to go. So any combination of 10 Pacers wins or Hawks losses would seal it. Looks very likely for the Pacers, who are very close, by the way, to locking up that play-in spot. I believe they could do it as soon as Monday. That is not necessary. This week is critical for the Pacers. Absolutely critical. They have been a road-heavy team all season schedule-wise. They play Minnesota Monday, and then after that, they have 4 more road games total, and one of them is against the Wizards. They play OKC, Denver, and Cleveland for the other 3, which is extremely hard. But after that, they have home-heavy schedule. Their last 15 games, 11 are at home. Of those 11 home games, the skeleton of the Dallas Mavericks, the Nets twice, Charlotte, Utah, and the Wizards are in there, right? Their schedule is pretty easy. This week, after Minnesota, who's tough, the Pacers have Dallas, Brooklyn until we next do standings watch. And then they have some tougher games at home after that. It is imperative that the Pacers win at least 3 games this week. Imperative. 1, because they're in a fight for seeding. Duh. These March games can be weird, but the Nets are trying to lose. I mean, look at where they are in the standings. They are 1 loss ahead of Philly and Toronto. Like, they have a chance to actually get a good pick if they can keep doing that. The Sixers won and helped the Nets in a big way over the weekend. They are racing to the bottom. Losing is actually good for them. They beat the Hawks, much to the Pacers' surprise and happiness over the weekend. Pacers have to clean up against them. Mavs, same thing. Behooves the Mavs to lose, given where their season is, getting as good of a pick as possible. They are very close to losing their grip on a play-in spot. They've lost 3 in a row. They have 8 available players for the foreseeable future. I say all this to say the Pacers need to go 3-1 because of themselves, first and foremost. But the standings watch chase is a fascinating week this week. The Bucks have a crazy hard schedule. They don't play a truly bad team until April 3rd. Here are their upcoming Bucks games, who are about to go west for a 5-game road trip. They play the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers, the Kings, the Suns, and the Nuggets. They don't play a home game until the 28th of March when they play the Knicks. Big game for the Pacers there. Then they play the Hawks, who aren't that great. Then the Suns again, and then Philly, who stinks. And their schedule in April specifically is not very hard. Sixers, Heat, Pels, twice in there before they close with 2 in a row against the Pistons. We'll get to that in a later standings watch. But their schedule is about to be hard. Chance for the Pacers to make some ground up on the Bucks. However, the other 2 teams the Pacers care about, the Pistons and the Knicks, have comically easy schedules this week. The Pistons, between now and the next standings watch, play New Orleans, Miami, Dallas, and New Orleans. That's as easy as it gets. And then they come home and play the Spurs, right? They are going to be hard to create distance from. Their schedule gets extremely hard after that stretch. In fact, they only have pretty much 1 easy game after March 25th. But if they'll have a chance to catch the Pacers in that stretch, create some momentum. The Knicks got a very lucky break timing with when Brunson got hurt that they were able to pick up 2 wins on the road out west. Their next games are Miami, San Antonio, Charlotte, Washington, Dallas. That is, they could, in theory, probably lock up the 3 seed if they clean up against those teams, especially without Brunson. So all that to say, it's so easy to see the Pistons and Knicks going on a surge right now. And the Knicks, maybe the Pacers don't care about. I've only got them in this because of the Brunson injury. If the Pistons surge and the Pacers fall behind them, that'd be terrible for them. And that's just a disaster for the Pacers. So not only do they have a chance to hold off the team behind them, and I think staying in the 4 or 5 is very important, they also have a chance to make up ground on the Bucks, given where the schedules are. And I think the Pacers have to take advantage of that. This is a huge week for them, and they have to go 3-1 at least. Inverse standings, very good week for the Pacers. Their pick is now 19th after this week. Milwaukee obviously beat them. Minnesota's won 8 in a row, and Golden State's won 7 in a row. The Pacers are now a game and a half behind both of those teams, and the Lakers have created a lot of distance, 4 games ahead. It looks like the Pacers pick floor is 22, and they are only they're even in the standings with the Clippers. They could actually get their pick as high as 18th without losing any draft reality. Now, if they want to host a series, their reasonable best pick is probably 19, maybe 20, but those were the other teams to monitor, were those West teams that the Pacers want to just keep winning for forever so that their pick can be as good as possible. Well, guess what? Minnesota and Golden State have combined to win 15 games in a row. How about that? So the Pacers pick could be in the teens and they could get the 4 or 5 seed. That's probably their ideal outcome this season to me. Looking at playoff seedings and things of the sorts, they'll take that winning streak. The only sliver of good thing that could come from losing to Minnesota. Huge week for the Pacers. It starts tonight against the Timberwolves. Tomorrow, we'll be talking Pacers-Wolves. We'll have a guest for Wednesday's show, then a back-to-back with Dallas and Brooklyn to get this week really going. And then finally, for me personally, unfortunately for you guys, no show on Saturday. The first no Locked On Pacers day in over 2 weeks. Hope you guys have been enjoying the show. Lots of crazy stuff going on in Pacerland. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Tony R. East. I'll have a story tomorrow in Forbes about the Pacers bench struggles. Oof, not very good. And this podcast has a Twitter account. It's at Locked On Pacers. Thank you all for listening. Back tomorrow talking Pacers Wolves. Till then, everybody, have a wonderful day.